Hello and welcome to our weekly Torah Talk. Our guest today is Rabbi Uri Regev. Hello, Rabbi, and thank you for being with us.
Shalom, and thank you for having me.
Rabbi Regev is President and CEO of a new educational and advocacy Israel Diaspora Partnership, Freedom of Religion for Israel, and of its Israeli counterpart, Chidush, for Freedom of Religion and Equality. And we decided not to talk too much about politics today, but more about Parsha.
Right.
Our Parsha this week, it's two Parshas, is Matot-Masei. In those Parshas that end Sefer Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, we have a war against Midian. We have the tribes of Reuben and Gad ask for lands east of the Jordan as their portion in the promised land. We have 42 journeys and encampments of Israel in the Midbar, the desert, that are listed. We have the boundaries of the promised land that are given. Safe havens, cities of refuge for murderers are designated in our Parshas. And we also go back to the story from a couple of weeks ago about the daughters of Tzlofchad. They all marry within their own tribe of Menashe so that the estate which they inherit from their father should not pass to the province of another tribe. Our Parsha begins with this pasuk. וידבר משה אל ראשי המטות לבני ישראל לאמור זה הדבר אשר ציווה אדוני איש כי ידור נדר לאדוני או יישבע שבועה לאסור איסר על נפשו לא יחל דברו ככל היוצא מפיו יעשה. Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the children of Israel saying, this is the thing the Lord has commanded. If a man makes a vow to the Lord or makes an oath to prohibit himself, he shall not violate his word. According to whatever came out of his mouth, he shall do. But then, Rabbi, comes the interesting part. If a woman makes a vow to the Lord or imposes a prohibition upon herself, I would guess, while in her father's house, in her youth, or if she's later married, the father and the husband determine whether the prohibition stands. So what do we learn from that?
Well, we learn two important things. One is that one should keep one's promises and vows and oaths, which I think is a very worthwhile and important lesson that the Torah wants to teach us. Promises, and you said we'll talk about the Torah, not politics. According to the Torah, promises are made to be kept. But we right away see how much the Torah is really a product of its time. Or I should say it is progressing in comparison to its time, but it cannot be extracted from the historical and social context. So the Torah portions start with the story or the issue of vows and oaths and the distinction between men and women, and ends with, as you said, chapter 2 of the story of the daughters of Tzlofchad. And between these two bookends, I think we can certainly discuss the role of women in the past and today, and whether the Torah is meant to be kept literally or to be a basis on which we continue the adaptation in relation to the changing circumstances of life, of science, of time, of history.
Well, when it talks about vows, it says that these are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses concerning a man and his wife, a father and his daughter. So we have been instructed to subject the will of a woman to her husband's or her father. What do we do with such command today?
Well, first of all, it's clear that there are those in our society which actually would still subscribe to this prescription. This is not universally rejected, but I would say that it does not reflect the attitude that most of us have towards whether it's wives or daughters. The Torah perceives of women as being in the domain of and under the control and rule of, while they're growing up before they get married, their father, and once they're getting married, their husband. And this is not what we know of society today. So actually, if we go back to the story of the daughters of Tzlofchad,
right.
When you read it first in the portion Pinchas, and there was a rule set when there is a man that dies and he does not have male sons and only daughters, the daughters shall inherit. And this is presented as a rule to be kept forever. This is now a new mandatory principle. Well, in our parasha, we realize that this was not exactly so. As a matter of fact, far from it.
Our parsha keeps limiting the freedoms of the daughters of Tzelofchad and enforces them into marrying members of their own tribe.
Well, let's look at it and see whether that's really so.
Okay.
But the first thing that I want to point to was that once the Torah presents something as a rule or as a rule forever, that doesn't really mean that it's going to be a rule forever, and it may be subject to change as soon as, two chapters later.
Right.
Namely, there is a new challenge, there is a new circumstance, there is a new reality, as in our parasha regarding the previous rule that women do inherit, and we find the law changed. Now, in our case, also, the parasha ends with, and this is now to be a rule forever to be kept, that when a man dies and he has sons but only daughters, the daughters shall inherit, but provided that they marry within the tribe. Well, the interesting thing is that if you look at the Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral law, and you look at the tradition that developed subsequently, such as in the Sifra and the Baba Batra, what you will find is that there were two sages that read this seemingly binding rule and said, not so fast. One suggested, this was a tzatova. It was a good advice that was given to them. If they want, they'll take the advice. If they don't want, they can marry whoever they want.
And all five of them ended up marrying the members of their own tribe, we should say.
That's right. And the other rabbinic sage that passes commentary on this says this was indeed binding only for that generation, but not subsequent generations. Now, when you read our text, our Torah text, you cannot escape the feeling that this was intended to be the general rule that will apply from now on. But rabbis, scholars, sages took it upon themselves to insert into the text that which can interpret it away, and sometimes in total deviation from the original principle that was enunciated or the rule that was fixed. And similarly, I suggest that we apply this regarding oaths and vows. Once women are no longer perceived as being under the rule of their either fathers or husbands, there cannot be a relevant extension of the principle that their vows and oaths are subject to the consent of or can be undone by their husbands or fathers.
Rabbi Regev, thank you very much.
Thank you, and shalom.